We haven't been able to corroborate everything. I said many of the corroborated sightings have turned out to be piloted aircraft. I didn't say all of them, and what I said was those are the ones we were able to corroborate. There's certainly ones that we have not been able to, and we don't know the answer to it.
The President-elect Donald Trump, he just called on the Biden administration for you guys to either release any information it has about these mysterious drone sightings or shoot the drones out of the sky. How do you respond to the President-elect?
Well, first of all, the statements I've made already are the principal message that I want to communicate to the American public. We haven't seen anything unusual. We know of no threat. Secondly, we have gone to Congress repeatedly asking for more authority to counter drone activity. And we have also asked for more authority to give to the state and local officials under our supervision, because he correctly notes those authorities need to be expanded.
Are you kidding me? The director of Homeland Security, the secretary of the Homeland Security, has the audacity, after all that I just set up and told you about before, to then tell Wolf Blitzer to calm the American people that he sees nothing unusual. One of the comments I've seen recently, someone said, yeah, of course Mayorkas doesn't see anything unusual. He didn't see anything on the border either, and so why would he see anything in the air? A lot to that. But the bigger issue here, to me, is that the fact that these things are flying all over the United States, and we don't even know, or at least not being told, which is possibly a second issue, who this is. How can it be that the United States of America, which we say is the most powerful nation on the planet, the most technologically advanced, et cetera, we pride ourselves on all that, after multiple months in these kinds of sightings all over the United States, don't know who it is, have not brought down a single one of them by any means. And listen, I'm not saying that this is an easy situation, because, you take down something in the air, it's going to fall. And you shoot a missile somewhere, then there's, as we see in the Russia-Ukraine war and all over the Middle East all the time, errant missiles can also hit the ground and cause damage. So it's not a minor issue that you have to be very, very careful about where you shoot these things down. But some of them, for example, have been over water. Some of them have been over, like directly over a military site where it can be safely taken down because there might not be anything under that particular part of it. But there's not any effort being made to do that. And it just baffles me why, okay, at first you're caught unaware, but now when the months start rolling around and you still aren't doing anything at all, that's a big red flag. Because listen, I mean, you may recall last month, or I'm sorry, it may have been September, when a lot of this issue in the Russia-Ukraine war, when Biden gave permission to use long-range weapons, and the immediate response from Moscow, from Sergei Lavrov, was that, listen, if this escalates into a war between the United States and NATO, the United States and Russia, or NATO and Russia, he said, the U.S. has always been safe, and they think that anything that happened would be on the European soil. He said, that is a wrong. And if you need to understand that if anything happens, and he was very circumspect on what he meant, your oceans won't protect you. There will be something on your soil too. It will come to your shores. He didn't say what he meant. Everybody gets to interpret whatever that was, but it certainly could be a drone situation, and not just from him, any potential adversary of the United States, because the technology is so profuse and so far out there, and it's easy to transport. It's easy to get it there. Some of the drone strikes that have happened in Russia, for example, by the Ukraine side, some have been launched from within Russia itself. Some have been launched from outside. And Russia even has a difficult time with it. But here's the thing. The United States has had the better part of 3 years to work with this and to understand the evolving threats of new and modern war. And especially in the drone. Without question, that has been the biggest development in this war so far, and it has dramatically changed the nature of war and how it's fought and how it's defended. And you now see, and really, we'll just take like the last 2 full years, because that's where a lot of this has really started to come into its own, both the offensive and defensive capability in drone warfare. That means shooting down, the ability to shoot down drones, the ability to knock them out with electronic warfare, and then, of course, the opportunity and the potential to counter all of those things on the other side. It's this never-ending process back and forth, and you've seen them ebb and flow about success rates expanding, and then some new technology comes out, and then it shrinks, etc. But here's the issue. The Russians and the Ukrainians have figured out how to shoot down between 80 and 90% of everything that comes from the other side, or to knock it out with electronic warfare. Probably more is knocked out with electronic warfare than is taken down with physical means. Anything to keep the weapons or the reconnaissance drones from accomplishing their mission. And yet, the United States, we can't take down any of them on our own soil. How can it be that the Pentagon, who is charged with defending our country, not just the Homeland Security, but the Pentagon and all of our forces, what that tells me is it is almost certain that we have taken virtually no effort to prepare our forces to fight the same kind of war that Russia and Ukraine is fighting right now. Because that is the future of it. And what that should tell you is that the Pentagon is way behind the power curve here. If we can't support Langley Air Force Base right near Washington, D.C., where the President of the United States, Congress, all that is located, if we can't even do that, or in New Jersey over military bases, etc., then what do you think the chances are that our tactical units, should they have to fight tomorrow, since some unexpected war breaks out and all of a sudden we have to go on the front lines and fight the same kind of fight that Russia's fighting, possibly even against Russia if things go bad there, and that's always a possibility. What do you think the chances are that we can defend ourselves? I think the chances are almost none. Well, not almost none. That's overstating it a little bit. We've been doing drones for quite a long time, and we have a lot of that, but we don't have combat experience with them. We don't have combat experience on defending against them either. And it just stands to reason. It's irrational to think that, yes, our tactical units are just as good as Russians are now, and we've been paying attention, and we have all these drone and counter drone capabilities equal to what Russia has, but we don't have any on our own soil. I mean, let that make sense. It just doesn't. But that's kind of where we are, and that's one of the things that I'm really concerned about, especially when you have, the leaders of our country making statements like these two guys are, months after this stuff is happening all over the place. How can it be that they don't have any plan to do anything at all? And I don't know. I mean, it seems a little trite and overused to say, well, we got to hope the incoming administration changes that. But I hope the incoming administration changes that and actually takes some action to defend ourselves. Because what this tells me from a military perspective is that somebody is doing reconnaissance. They are testing out systems. They're saying, how far can we go with this before it's identified? What are the countermeasures being employed? What do they do in response? And is there anything prohibiting us from taking action? And if we want to take action, what do we want to hit? And how far would it take? What is the time of flight to go from the launch point to the target location? How much battery life do we, all those kinds of things. And so somebody is getting that kind of information. And in the event that war does break out between the United States and Russia, or in the future, United States and China, or the United States in Iran, any of those things happen, or anyone for that matter, it is possible that someone is already preparing to strike the homeland of the United States. And I assure you that it won't go well with the current administration, even if after they're out, if all of these things were known and self-evident, and they did nothing to stop it, and they didn't put up any positions. Listen, at the absolute minimum, what's going on in Russia by all these Russian strikes with drones was another huge barrage overnight. 100 missiles and about 200 drones just scattered in the last 36 hours, I think, all throughout Ukraine. And a great many of them were shot down, at least reportedly. Honestly, probably about half of them were shot down. Still not minor, but that means a lot of them were getting through. But the same thing in Russia. Even Ukraine has been able to launch a lot of drones, and many of them do get through. There's a big depot, an oil depot that was hit in Oryol, I believe it was, in Russia in the last day or so. And that's been happening many times over the last year and a half. Russia has a lot of defenses, but stuff still gets through. We don't have any defenses. What we should do at an absolute minimum is that the incoming Trump administration needs to put a very high, if not even top priority militarily on defending our homeland and making sure that this new technology, that we have ways to defeat it one way or another. This should be a major, major issue on our Capitol, of course, over the White House, but over all these military bases, especially, or where we have our intercontinental ballistic silos, for example. We need to have something in place to protect us because they're very vulnerable to be knocked out.